It's been a long road getting past copyrights. It's been a long time, but the salon will start right now. Ahoy hoy friends, and welcome to the Salon. It's a Thumb War, Star Trek Enterprise Edition, first half of season 1. Welcome to a strange new Salon. That's right, we're going to get into the first half of Star Trek Enterprise's first season. But in order to do that, I need my crew, so let's beam them aboard. Let's start with my co-host, Trevor. How are you?
I'm just delightful. I'm so happy to be here talking about this amazing show.
Yes.
Did you buy any of that?
Yes. And speaking of bald and amazing, here's Benji. How are you, Benji?
I'm great.
How's
ironically,
the 51st state?
The 50. Oh, we're retaliating strongly.
Yes.
That's what we're doing.
Speaking of retaliating, Will, how are you, darling?
Fine, I guess. I don't know.
Sharp.
What am I retaliating against?
To the point.
I'm retaliating against that theme song you made.
That is fair. 8 weeks. Get excited. I might switch it up when we get to the seasons where the theme song changes just a little bit. I'll make it peppier when we get to season 3. But yes, you all may notice in the chat that we have launched our tariffs and counter tariffs. That's right. We've swapped Matt for Benji. We are keeping it to a small white male only crew, not intentional, but fitting again for Star Trek Enterprise.
It's basically we're basically the bridge crew. It's fine.
Yeah. Mess. Well, should we talk about Star Trek Enterprise? I don't have a good segue. This is it's a thumb war. We're going to get into it. Get excited, everybody. If you don't remember what a thumb war is, we'll get there. But before we get there, we need to go on a long road.
Wait.
And before we get on a long road, Trevor needs to say something.
Podcast things?
Oh, I was going to do that at the end.
We'll do it now.
Podcast things, like and subscribe, or Trevor will get you. Do as he says. Please, everybody, please do what Trevor says, because you guys don't know this. He's like kind of a monster. And like, if you don't do exactly what he says when he says it, he will drive the 2 hours from Palm Springs to LA and he beats me. And it's fine. It's fine. But please like and subscribe. Please buy from our store. You can see it on the screen. You can follow us on the podcast places. Please do it. Don't make Trevor angry. Like and subscribe. All the podcast things, please do. Let's get back on that long road.
Indeed. And in honor of the long road, I thought it would be fun if we just went around the room very quickly and talked about everyone's favorite road trip. So where'd you go? What'd you do? Why'd you go there? As always, I will start us off by sharing a fun little trip that I went on to a Star Trek convention. I think my favorite road trip ever was a friend of mine. She and I drove from Northeast Florida down to Tampa just to go to a Star Trek convention. We had like next to no money. Her car broke down. My dad had to come rescue us. It was really fun. We had to explain to my dad why we had checked out of our room, but our luggage was with the Klingons. That was just a thing. And I thought it was appropriate for this little chat. So with that, Will, wake up and tell us your favorite road trip.
sorry. Call me mid-yawn. I actually hate road trips. I would rather not do them. Not a fan. But I will say I've never had a favorite because I've hated it. But the one that was the most memorable was when I was 10. My oldest sister was living in outside of Seattle, and my dad decided it'd be a great idea to pack his family into a tiny camper and take 2 weeks to drive there. And it was the worst. It was like it was like we were on the run. Like, I don't know what it was we were doing. It was terrible. It was like,
Are you sure you weren't?
I mean, maybe. I mean, it was a lot. I was like,
He's a bit of a conspiracy theorist. Maybe it was.
It could have been. I mean, who knows? I mean, why we were all trapped in this camper for weeks and then driving to see my sister. We were there for maybe 24 hours and then left. And I was like, we drove all this way to see her and we spent one day and then we're like, oh, got to go back. And it was just the worst. Like it was whatever. It just, I hated it. Anyway, I do not have a favorite road trip. And if I could take a direct flight, absolutely. Anyway, Benji, do they have road trips in Canada? Is that something you're allowed to do?
They're very, very long, and it's like it gets to the point where you're like worried about whether or not you're actually going to get to a gas station or not in time to fill up. That can happen.
About Canada,
yeah, especially where I am. My favorite one though was, I guess, sort of a hybrid. I think this is actually doing it right, which was that like I was a teenager, so it was the 90s because I'm old. We flew to LA for a bar mitzvah, did the bar mitzvah, did a tour of the Paramount lot. They were filming Voyager at the time. I got to like see like one of the studio doors was open and I could see like the Type 2 shuttle set from the outside that they were using for filming. It's all like press board on the outside, so it doesn't look like much, but I have a picture of it somewhere. I've been looking for it. So we got to do that. That was super cool. Then we drove up the coast of California, which was like the most gorgeous and incredible experience of my life. It's California is an amazing state, wonderful place to visit, and then ended up in San Francisco. Got to see the future site of Starfleet Command and Starfleet Academy, Golden Gate Bridge. Got the obligatory photo, and then smartly did not drive, but flew to Las Vegas and did the Star Trek experience. So, yeah. That's that one.
That sounds wonderful. I did something similar with family. I agree with Will. I hate road trips, especially when I have to drive. And the family road trips were the worst because grew up poor and our vacations were to see family. Lived in Salt Lake at the time, would drive to Phoenix to see family. That is a 12-hour drive. And this was back when cassette tapes were a thing. And so we would listen to George Strait and Brooks and Dunn and something that had Jefferson Starship, We Built This City on it. And those songs are burned into my brain for better or worse. My favorite road trip, I will say, as an adult, has been a camping trip that I took with two friends because I got to sit in the back of a very comfortable van and not drive. And so I got to be on my iPad. Because I'm an iPad kid as an adult, it turns out. But then went and did some beautiful camping in around Crater Lake, Oregon, and Northern California. Just lovely stuff. And we made it to like we were going to do a week. We made it to 6 days and we were like, we are done. We need to take a real shower, get to a real toilet, and get away from each other. Yeah. Celtic harp. Okay. Interesting. Enya?
No, it was this Celtic music tape. He just played it over and over again. And I was like, I just wanted to die. I just remember that when you're talking about the music. So I was like, that's all he would listen. That's all. It was that or silence. And I was like, okay, great. It was the worst road trip. It was just like, why did you do this? And the camper was only built for like maybe 3 people, and there was 5 in it. It was terrible.
Nice.
Did he order it from like the 800 number infomercial that used to play, or did he go and buy it at Bed Bath & Beyond?
No, I don't know. I don't know where he got it. I think
Columbia House.
I don't know. First, I don't know why he was like, this is what we're going to listen to, this Celtic music. It was just like, how is anyone awake in this car? It was terrible. Like, Yeah.
I want to have a segment every couple of weeks just for you to tell a different story about your dad. I've heard a few of them,
Oh
and
my god. The man needs to be locked up.
Maybe this is
He
just like
does.
this might just be a being in Canada thing, but I was once at like a house party again when I was a teenager, and we got busted. I think because my friend left the window open and they were like blasting Celtic music for some reason, and the neighbor called the cops. So our party got busted up by the cops for playing really loud.
sounds like
They're
quite
like-
the rager. If you had
The
Celtic
party was
music.
fine, but you crossed the line
yeah.
with the Celtic music.
The cops came in too, and they like picked up a can of like soda off the table. Like, what is this, a root beer party? Like they were like,
You're like, absolutely not. This is the
Yeah, we were
Queen
blasting
realm.
Celtic music. The hardest thing any of us have had
Drinking-
here is Ovaltine. Yeah.
and drinking root
There's
beer.
a lesson to be learned here from both of these stories, and it's nothing good comes of blasting Celtic music.
No, I wish my dad blasted it. It was an imperceivable volume. It was like 3 or 4.
Oh,
it was
God.
too much. I
Ah.
saw that tape too one time when I went over to his house. I was helping him clean his garage before I moved, and I saw that tape and I almost destroyed it. And he was like, "Oh, I was looking for that," and he grabbed it, and I was like, "I can't." It was always in the car. It was always there, just under the dash, just sitting there all the time. And he would like look at it, and I was like, "Don't you dare put it in there." It was just awful. No music, but that Celtic shit. Ugh. Anyway.
Speaking of great music, it's a wonderful intention setter, Trevor. Thank you very much. We are now going to be talking about Star Trek Enterprise. For those who don't know, who haven't seen one of our Thumb Wars, while waiting for new Star Trek, we desperately need content on this podcast. And so we do a Thumb War. Check out the playlists over on YouTube. So you can see our Thumb Wars for Star Trek Deep Space Nine and some of the Next Generation. A few seasons existed prior to us prior to when we would words. We used to self-destruct. We no longer do that. That's why some of those seasons are missing. We may go back and redo them. And track back to how our opinions have changed through Trevor's scorekeeping. Trevor, you're holding your pen to make a point. Go for it.
It's how I make points all the time. Even although, like, I do this at work, and I don't actually write anything down at work. I just pick up my pen on camera and do this. It's great. It always works. It's a bit conductor-like, and I appreciate the attention it brings me. No, if you want a serious take on Thumb Wars, watch DS9. If you want to see us at our probably worst/best, watch season 1 of TNG Thumb War, because we were all intoxicated and completely off the rails, and it was a delight. So
in a way, we used to be better.
if you want to laugh with us, watch that one. If you want to laugh at us, watch DS9. No, that didn't work. Whatever. Anyway, watch them all. They're fun.
Well, one thing that has changed is we are talking about a series that had 26 episode seasons. And so we don't want to have a 4-hour stream necessarily for algorithm reasons, but also want to keep it fun. Some seasons we had to rush through some episodes that we wanted to talk about. So today we are going to kick things off with Star Trek Enterprise season 1, the first half. And so let's talk about our top thoughts on this first half of this first season. Before we get into the nitty gritty and showing our thumbs for each specific episode, and another video will play, don't worry, because if there's one thing I'm going to do, it's going to play a video on a stream. So I'm slurring my words, and I have not had anything to drink yet. Top thoughts on this season. I think it was Will who said this last week. You can see how tired production is. They wanted to take time off between Voyager and Enterprise. They weren't allowed to. That said, I think while the writer's room could have used a refresh and some fresh voices, there are more good episodes this season than I recalled. Sometimes when I think back to Star Trek Enterprise, I think, oh, it's a mess. And that is certainly true in a lot of cases. But the first season was better than I remember. Rewatching these first 13 episodes, I found myself really enjoying most of them. I will say, though, we say this every week and we will continue to, of its time. There's a lot of white saviorism happening in this season, and there's a lot of, I think they missed the mark in a couple of episodes with the allegory that they're trying to make happen, and it feels like a couple of missed opportunities. For example, in Unexpected, I'll talk about the opportunity that they had to talk about cultural differences, consent, or whatever, but it really just boiled down to, oh, a boy is pregnant, haha, and like cheap humor. Although there were some enjoyable aspects of that too. So those are my top thoughts on this first half of the season. Benji?
Top thoughts on the first half? I mean, I think it's pretty obvious that there's a bit of a downslide after that pretty phenomenal pilot. Yeah, it's like you said, it's like, I think most first seasons are like that. Like, you have the pilot, then it's like kind of wonky, boring first couple episodes after that. But yeah, I mean, sprinkled out, there are some really solid episodes. I also just wanted to say I genuinely love Enterprise. Like, when I was doing my rewatch, like, just realizing this was like the first Trek I watched as an adult, and I didn't realize how much it meant to me at the time and how burned into my brain it is. And I think it's genuinely really good. And weirdly, huge proportion of episodes written by Rick Berman, like more than any other series, like by far. And I still like it. So go figure.
Will?
Me. Yeah, I think the first half of the season is very interesting because it's the same episodes we would have gotten. Hello, Walter. We would have gotten from any other series, but it feels like they're having the premise do most of the work. Like, this is the first the first Starfleet crew to be exploring like this, but it doesn't, and simultaneously doesn't tread any new water story wise. Like, on the whole, like, there's a few episodes that are really like real standouts, but I think that there was a real kind of I don't know if it's the writers, what's going on, but it seems like the direction is like, let the premise do the talking, where instead of trying to like breathe new, hoping that this new premise that's a prequel, that this is all new to them, that it would be new to us as viewers of Star Trek, but it comes off contrived in a lot of ways. There's good episodes, but I feel like you could pluck them out and put them in any other series and they would be just as effective. The series has not found a voice, and it's just premise alone. The first season, like, there's some interesting stuff that does happen, but it's mostly just it's just premise. It's so strange watching it again and kind of like watching it and kind of seeing what they're trying to do, and then just seeing how exhausted the franchise is at this point. Like, I didn't realize it at the time, but like rewatching it now, because I haven't seen it since it was canceled. So 22 years on, you can just tell how exhausted the franchise is. It's very fascinating to watch now as an adult, because as a kid I was just like, Star Trek phasers, and like super excited, but like now it's like, oh, you can see it. And it's kind of sad, because if this show would have come out, if they would have given the franchise some room to breathe and then released this, maybe the stories would have been better, or they would have a more interesting premise. But like, it's trying to plant a crop in soil that's already depleted, I would say.
I saw an interesting thing researching for the visuals that you'll see as we get into the thumb war. I don't recall where it was, apologies, but somebody put together, here's how I think you should watch the franchise. And they purposefully put Enterprise later in their suggested watch, because the way they said it, and I'm paraphrasing, you need to know a lot about Star Trek to really enjoy Enterprise. Like, I would say even more than Lower Decks. Like, Lower Decks has a layer that you enjoy if you know Star Trek, but Enterprise, like, I think you're right, Will. It's the premise is doing the work more than the story.
Yeah, this series is not helped, in my opinion, by trying to emulate the original series. It should have just done its own thing, been its own thing. But we have the Caucasian male captain, the Vulcan first officer, science officer, and the third part of the primary triad with a Southern accent. Then we have we have two people that don't really have a whole lot to do through most of the series. One of them is of Asian descent, the other is African American. We just put one at communications and one at helm, and then switch them when we do a different series. And then we have a person with another accent with no real development who fires phasers, and boom, we have a show. It's literally the exact same cast with just some gender swapping here and there, and it didn't need to be that way, and so that is very frustrating. It also, I mean, it's already been said, the show struggles to find its identity, not just in this first half that we're going to discuss, but I don't think it finds its identity until halfway through the fourth season, which is nuts. But and then by the time it becomes remotely unique and interesting, it's over. So for that reason alone, I've not done a lot of rewatches, but I enjoyed the aesthetics of it. I liked how I think season 4 gets it right when they get into the serialized episodic version of Trek, which we're seeing more and more in Strange New Worlds. I don't dislike any Star Trek, but this series will always rank in the bottom half, because it's trying to do too many things that have already been done, when clearly this cast can do their own thing and do it well when they're challenged to do so. It's just that the writing wasn't there and the production wasn't there, and all of that was just based on franchise fatigue. So,
and that's the Salon. Good night, everybody.
Bye.
Those are our top thoughts. We're gonna deep dive a little bit heavier here, so let's get. Oh no, there it is. It's time for a thumb war. That's right. The thumb wars are about to begin. For those who don't recall, the way this will work is Trevor is going to read a description of the episode that he did not write and may or may not have varying levels of accuracy to it. Sometimes it's Google, sometimes it's Wikipedia. Who's to say? Trevor in a moment. And so let's kick things off with the pilot, Broken Bow.
Season 1, Episode 1 and 2, Broken Bow. While returning an injured Klingon to his people, the Enterprise is intercepted by a rogue race of aliens called the Suliban. The Enterprise is on its first deep space mission when a villainous race called the Suliban kidnap the Klingon they are transporting, forcing Archer to make a detour. Again, I did not write these. But that's not an awful description, other than the fact that it just repeats the Suliban bit over and over. I'll stop. Benji, you weren't here when we discussed Broken Bow, so do you want to kick things off by sharing your thoughts about that particular episode?
Oh, sure, I will. I don't think I have much to add to last week, just that I've always thought that this was the best Trek pilot, and I still do. I think it's the best episode of the series. It is still one of my favorite episodes of Trek. It is incredibly cinematic. I was really excited when it came out. That's sort of my whole opinion of it. It's a phenomenally well put together episode. They did a lot of really good world building, I think. Very strong design. They thankfully didn't shy away from going in a different direction, on the design stuff. Uniforms, ships are very solidly designed, however you think about the ship design. Very competently designed. All of the world building really good. Yeah, that's all I really have to say about it. Except can we please all just agree to call it Broken Bow? It's been fuck that town. We all want to call it that. It's about a ship.
It's a real place.
Thumbs up.
Change the name.
All right, let's see those thumbs. Let's check out last week's Salon to see a further deep dive with a slightly different group of white men.
Yay, it's anonymous. It's a thumbs up. I did that on purpose. Are we moving on?
We are.
As fast as a Warp 5 ship can take us. Season 1, Episode 3, Fight or Flight. The crew encounters an abandoned ship containing 15 alien corpses that were part of a scientific experiment. Accurate, though incomplete.
Anybody have thoughts on this episode that they'd like to share? Will?
I think this is the most accurate representation of what walking onto a ship and just seeing bodies everywhere. Like, I think like it's like a Insensato like focused episode. I think it's like one of her few episodes that I think she has a chance to shine, but that shows that like not everyone wants to go into space. She's like not excited about it. So like for that alone, I like because they walk on and they're just so desensitized. Like, oh, there's dead bodies everywhere. But here they're like, she freaks out, and I'm like, you would. Yeah. So, but yeah, no, that's all I wanted to say. I just find that rewatching it, I was like, that's how you react when you see a dead body. Like,
yes,
it was just accurate to me.
They do like a really good job of making sure that they know that everything that happens in the series is the first time that it's happening in Star Trek. So it's like the reactions have to be kind of like first time reactions. So they're very consistent about that. One thing I remember from when this episode came out, though, was when they were, I guess it was like Berman and Braga or whatever, we're talking about the series. And they were like, yeah, we want to explore things like, you're in space for a really long time and you're going to get bored. So let's explore boredom. Which in my mind just leads to a boring fucking episode, which this was. Good night.
That's what you call out of ideas.
Yeah. and for your second episode, technically,
but then boredom on our second episode of our new series. Yeah.
But this is another thing that happens in Trek a lot is like the success of the pilot is questionable with some of the series, but then the second episode has always been rough. Like for the original series, it was wonky. For Next Generation, it was definitely wonky because it was just a retread of the original series. Trevor disagrees, and how dare I? Okay.
No, it was 11-year-old Trevor loved that episode, which tells you everything you need to know about that episode.
Bill Riker. All right, let's see those thumbs. I think that average is sideways.
It's a sideways.
Wow, fuck my drag. Wow.
I agree with your thoughts about Hoshi.
That's the only thing I liked about the episode is I liked Hoshi in it because I was like, yeah, girl, I don't want to go into space either. Like the fuck, like I get it. Anyway, you just want to teach in that jungle in Brazil and in my classroom, which is like just a cabana, like that. You're outdoor. Yeah.
Alrighty, Strange New World.
Season 1, Episode 4, Strange New World. While stranded on an uninhabited planet, Trip, Mayweather, and T'Pol are overcome by paranoid fantasies caused by an hallucinogenic released by flowers. And Archer must save them. I mean, sure, that's the description.
Yeah, because Archer does it alone, swashbuckling style, not the crew coming together. The world wasn't that strange. I didn't like the title.
The world wasn't that strange. The events that occurred
happens.
Yeah. Yes. The events were strange. The world was not that strange. I will say this begins my problem with Archer bringing Porthos.
Yes.
Because he takes them on a planet no one's ever been to. No one knows if there's a disease that only affects dogs. Like there's no leash on that dog. Like, what if that I'm like clearly doesn't worry about other dogs, but you don't know what he's got to worry about. Like I don't know, what do fleas on this planet look like, and what do they do to a little beagle? I don't. Yeah. I have questions. And it seems like irresponsible dog dadding, and I won't stand for it.
This also is another episode where just listen to Paul. I find myself thinking, like, she's not wrong. You start with the probes, like I get for storytelling and an episode of TV super boring, but like taking this as a real world documentary for a moment, which is Trevor's fun headcanon about personal logs and such. Like, yeah, you do this right. Do probes first. Nuts.
Probes don't make for great episodes, Stanley. I don't know.
Well, they wanted to explore
I thought
boredom. This
that
was the episodes. Oh, we're going to do this one by the
This is
book.
the
And you
episode to
see
do it.
people load a probe in, and then they beam down knowing everything about the planet. Yeah.
If you'd like to hear more
This
about
is-
why
this-
probes make great episodes, you should watch our review of the Star Trek Next Generation porn parody, available on Patreon.
Wow. Quite a few probes.
It's
A lovely one.
This episode, I forgot how much I hated this episode. I remember when it first premiered, I was like, "This is the episode." I was like, "Oh God!" Like a cave episode. Seriously, this early in the season.
Yeah, this is a typical, like, we spent too much on the pilot, so we need to do an episode where the entire crew goes crazy.
Yeah, it's the budget catch up one because they're clearly in Griffith Park.
Griffith Park.
And
Yeah.
then
They
so
put the shuttle on a
they-
flatbed and
yeah, dropped off at Griffith Park, and then they're at least this cave doesn't look like it's made out of paper mache, but like it's a little half the series could just be like, yeah, that's probably actually not at Griffith Park, that's probably somewhere out in the valley, based on the mountains. But it is a I don't know, it's just like, it's like, okay, spores made everyone paranoid, cool. Just like, listen to the fucking science officer. It's just like, if there was more of like, oh, these people are prejudiced against Vulcans, like if they played that up a little bit more, like them dealing with their prejudice, because it just kind of like fades over time, kinda. But like
For her specifically, not for Vulcans.
yeah, for her specifically. But like, it is just diabolically boring. This episode. This is the exploration of boring. There it is, episode 4. We did it.
We
Good
also
job,
get
Brandon.
Crewman Cutler introduction and the other guy who proves the situation is serious with the transporter.
The guy who looked like the guy that had the phobia in Voyager, where the worm was like crawling through his body.
Was that the same actor? Like they
I
look.
feel like it was, or it's his twin brother. I don't know. But yes, I love the look. Our transporters are scary because you could beam up with sticks in your body. Like, what? That doesn't even make sense. Like, why is that a thing? Like, I can understand not being able to lock onto him, but like our transporters are so primitive, we might confuse your DNA with that of a tree. Like, what is happening?
Right.
I knew that
God
the body
forbid-
horror motion picture moment where they beam him in and he's just a pile of goo. Like his,
Yes.
his bones get replaced with sticks or something. Like, give me that.
I'm sorry,
show
sir,
us
we
what
can't.
actually
Windy.
happened.
We can't beam you up because of sticks.
It's on account of the wind.
Guys, there's too many leaves and sticks in the air. We can't beam you up.
They didn't rake here. There's a bunch of leaves blown around.
God.
They are different actors.
Are they?
In Star Trek Enterprise, this was Henry Lubati as crewman Ethan Novakovich. And then in Good Shepherd, we're talking about William Telfer, right? Or Mortimer.
Sure.
One of either way, the names are not the same. I forget which character it was.
We'll get to it eventually, but there's going to be a character or a person who plays a Nazi on Enterprise who also played a Nazi on Voyager. Same guy.
Typecast.
And then did the same
Wait,
on
where he goes
January
back.
6th.
Oh, almost a new Star Trek series, Strange New World. Show me your thumbs. Get it down.
Boop.
I only give it a sideways because of all the Vulcan speaking that T'Pol did. It was enjoyable.
Mm.
Season 1, episode 5. Unexpected. Trip becomes. All right, I had to. Trip becomes pregnant with an alien baby after being dispatched to an alien ship where he has a close encounter with one of the ship's engineers.
This could have been something. like I said earlier, I really
It
want to
was
like
something.
this episode. Well, yes. This was another episode of Trip being an arrogant fool and something that I think is missing in some of these early episodes is an Archer or a T'Pol being stern with people, not thinking shit through, and then that person actually learning it. Like T'Pol is treated like a mother hen in most episodes, but she's also right, and there's never really an acknowledgement. And in this episode, Trip is whining the entire time that he's going through this recombination chamber or whatever, and then these aliens tell him, hey, our environment's weird, you've been in there for 3 hours, now you need to sleep. And he's like, no, I'm gonna fix your engine. Like, they really lean into the arrogant white man with him very early on and consistently. And so that being the juxtaposition with him becoming pregnant, I feel like could have been much more interesting, but it's just played for laughs. Oh, he has a nipple on his arm. Ugh. Like, there could have been something about cultural differences. There could have been something about consent. There could have been something about like maybe he did think it was interesting. Like, oh, like I am the first human male who's ever been pregnant. There's something interesting, and like you can play the funny aspect because it's fish out of water, but it was too juvenile. The humor was too juvenile. So those are my thoughts.
It also ages this episode quite a bit in terms of acknowledging that there are many trans men who have given birth to children. So it pre-mocks something that very shortly after this episode happened is a part of normal everyday society, unless never mind, I'm not going to say it. Of normal everyday society. So yeah, there's that.
This is just dumb. Like it was like it just watching this, I was like, oh my god. It made me like I will admit I fast forwarded through this episode because I was like, I can't watch this. It's just so stupid. And like there could be like a very nuanced conversation happening about like, oh, we have like the idea of consent and like informed consent and like like we could have like terminating a pregnancy, like this sort of thing. And then but it's just like, oh, guy got pregnant. It's like, okay. Like anytime Star Trek tries to do comedy, it just never it's never good. Like it never ends up being played fun. It's more like it seems like comedy that punches down in a lot of ways, which is so strange because it just feels like it's pointing, it's like making, it's like jabbing at like the fact that he got pregnant. And like, there's a lot of drama that could happen in that where he's like, I went to this alien ship to help them and I got pregnant. And like, what do I do? Like, there's this idea, like, the responsibility of being a parent and like, but if you write it's like, girl, you can't do that fucking Arnold Schwarzenegger movie Junior in space. Like, you can't do that. Like, what the fuck? Like, it's just so stupid. Like, this is like very easily one of the worst. I mean, that would be really funny, but it's just Arnold Schwarzenegger in a space. He goes, "I'm pregnant," and he's just flying. That'd be great.
In space.
I am pregnant in space. Yeah. In that future, we get a franchise for the movie Junior, and they run out of ideas. So it's like the Jason movies where Jason Tenney's in space.
Oh yeah.
The studios are looking for new IP to exploit.
Hey, you know what? It's my claim to
The
fame.
Junior Cinematic Universe.
Girl, yeah. I'll
Okay.
Well, yeah. Easily the worst episodes of the series. Did you love this episode, Benji? Admit it. You love this episode. I feel like a dumb bitch
now because I like the episode.
Benji, tell us why you're wrong.
Tell us why.
Because I think, well, first of all, I think the actress was really, really good. She did a great job of acting very alien. I actually saw an interview with her recently that was really good, and she like recounts the whole thing, and like what she did to make herself seem more alien. I thought that was great. I thought they did a really good job developing the species and the culture and the world building on the ship and making everything seem like different and alien to what the crew has encountered before. And they take us through all of these, things that they have to go through to acclimate. But that's the kind of stuff that I like because I'm a Trekkie. Yeah, no, I like it. And men can get pregnant.
All valid points. A shame that we didn't get more about Trip's parents. Like, what a great opportunity. He's expecting a child. He never thought he would become a parent. Let's learn a little bit about, because God knows we're going to spend enough time on his family in later seasons.
Well, yeah, because there's that 5 minutes where they're like, we can't find her, so you might have to keep it.
Yeah.
Right.
Which was like kind of like that's his decision if he wants to or not. They're like, oh, by the way, we can't find her. You're keeping the baby, and he's just like, no, like,
or
yeah.
Or even like, I mean,
wouldn't it have been an interesting play on the hormonal impact of different instincts? And he wanted not only to keep it, but to he was like, no, this is my child. Like, what if he had a reaction that was very, like,
Deanna?
Well,
Captain, do what you must, but I will have this baby. Or wait, no. Captain, do what I can't do Southern. Captain.
I mean, either way, it was an actor doing an accent that wasn't their own.
Yeah. Let's see those thumbs.
Sorry, Benji. Maybe it's different in Canadian. Season 1, episode 6. Oh God, Terra Nova. Oops, I'm not supposed to spoil my thoughts when I read the title.
This will be a recurring theme in the Thumb Wars. You will.
The more for those of you who haven't watched Thumb Wars before, the more I drink, the more I reveal just by reading the name of the episode. When the crew alters, season 1, episode 6, Terra Nova. When the crew alters course to explore a deserted Earth colony called Terra Nova, they come face to face with the colony's human descendants who have evolved in a surprising manner. I'm going to say that's a pretty good description, despite the Google usually being wrong.
Yeah. I mean, the word evolve is doing a lot of work there, but yes.
It is. It's a lot of heavy lifting. But yes, usually, I mean, half the fun of Thumb Wars is me reading these horrible descriptions. And that was actually pretty decent. Thoughts?
Fucking shit episode, dude.
Thank you.
It's shale. It's all shale.
Fucking shit. Oh my God.
Immediately shale.
Like, I'm gonna pull a Benji on this one. This is one of my favorites of this batch.
Get out.
Now. No. You are not. Y'all are not wrong. It is a bad episode, but there are things that I like. First of all, I feel like it is an almost exact. It's very similar to Friendship 1 from Voyager's 6th or 7th season.
Mm-hmm.
Like very, very similar. Like again, the franchise fatigue, the fatigue of the specific writers is here. But I don't know. I don't know what it is about it that I like, other than the basic premise. But I like it. But there are a lot of things about it that do not make any sense. Like 70 years prior to this show, we're still advanced enough to get to this planet. They would completely disassemble their ship and not be able to monitor what's going on is insane. To think that Earth would send something to then poison you is insane. To think that you 200 people were going to have this entire planet to yourself and be mad that Earth is sending another 200 people is insane. Like it like a lot of it unravels for sure, but I still like the episode for some reason.
It's Lord of the Flies with old people.
Basically.
Lumpy old people.
Mm-hmm.
The oatmeal makeup is not working for me.
You know what? I think it's the T'Pol and Archer's conversations that I do appreciate in this episode. He's unraveling his own biases about the way Vulcans treated Earth with what he's trying to do for the descendants of this colony. So there's some interesting things happening in their discussions, but that's about it.
Yes, and episode 6, more caves. Like we're already back to the cave set.
We got them caves, girl. This one is just I took notes because I was like, I need to remember some of this. I wrote Archer okay, everyone else fine. Why shit makeup was my note. Because they just put like, it looks like they went to that Holly festival. It's like, ooh, the colored paint. It was like, girl, get over it.
It's funny that you wrote your notes like they speak.
Yeah, the irony of that. Yeah, just fucking terrible. I hate this episode. This was they have a lot of relationship with the words Terra Nova in this series. Like how many times we have this is the first of 3 episodes that have Terra Nova in them.
Terra Prime and then Terra.
Yeah. Anyway,
like we get it. It's Latin. Let's stop. Yeah.
Ugh. Boo.
Terra Nova, show me your thumbs.
It's getting a double deuce for me. I didn't like this episode. Double deuce, double
shale.
A down up neutral. A down up sideways is technically a down.
I think so. Well, yeah.
I think that would average out to a sideways, wouldn't it?
Is it a tie?
This would be a sideways. It's upside down. I guess it would be sideways.
It's technically a sideways. All right.
Ugh, whatever.
I'll allow it. Talk about unexpected. I'm just kidding. Season 1, episode 7, The Andorian Incident. The crew visits an ancient Vulcan monastery. Spoiler alert, it's not a monastery. Which is occupied by the Andorians, a highly strung and suspicious race of aliens with a long history of conflict with the Vulcans. Okay, Google's wrong, but that they refer to the Andorians as highly strung, I'm on board.
I mean,
I'm on
not
board
wrong.
with this description.
Yeah.
Like, that's problematic in and of itself. Like, anyway.
And it's the episode that's playing on my background right now.
This is like the first episode that they like the actual premise of this being a prequel was actually they ran with the premise and used it instead of just being like it's new because they're new to it. It's like, okay, bitch, this is the first time they're like, okay, we're gonna get Andorians, we're getting Vulcans, we're doing this shit. It's like the first time that there's like the idea that there's a prequel, that these are different, that they're not the Andorians and the Vulcans we know as background characters later in Next Generation, but like that there's like they take like the first time the Andorians are actually like a character and have like a relationship and stuff, because they're just kind of like the dude with the thing in the background, like the blue guy. Like they're not really. This is like the first great episode of the series, I think, other than the pilot. But it's like the first time I was like, finally, they get the idea of what this prequel means. Like, this is probably my favorite episode of the season, I think. One of them. But yeah, this is so good. It's such a good episode. Yeah, Jeffrey Combs just coming in hot, coming in with a character that fucking slaps. Like, so good. Shran is so good. He's so good in this. It's just like he's completely different than Wayun. He's completely different like any other character he played in DS9. It's just like, yes, get this man in fucking makeup every time. Like, get him in weird little robot ears. I love it. And the fact his little ears move, love it. So cool. So fucking cool.
Antenna, how dare you?
Oh, sorry, an antenna. Sorry.
Species.
They're fucking cool.
The best Andorian. Yeah, I think it's like better Andorian makeup than what they've done recently. It's really, really good.
Oh yeah, I don't like this is the best makeup they've done. And
it's also interesting that
it's too much. There's too much going on.
Yeah, and it's interesting that they've said that they can't do antenna because the animatronics don't work well or whatever. I'm like, they did it 20 years ago. What are you talking about?
He does it. There's like an episode. I don't know if it's this episode. I don't remember, but like where he's walking and there's like that low beam and Shran's walking and his antenna both fold back and then back up. And I was like, that's fucking sick. And he's just walking. And I'm like, yeah.
This is a great episode. I love it. Get some in-universe stuff that gets me to Paul explaining the protocol and Archer and Trip just having an eddy about it. They're like, wow, I thought Starfleet training was tough. Like, she literally just said, don't speak unless spoken to. We may not be allowed in because they're doing a ritual. Don't touch anything. Like, very basic rules for this monastery. And they're like, oh, Jiminy Christmas. I wanted to go in and touch everything.
The rules for entering a Vulcan monastery for adult humans are the same rules that child humans receive when walking into a Montgomery wards in 1984. So like it's like none of this is hard. So like that they're acting bizarre is like just be respectful. Why is that hard?
I remember when this episode came out. Again, I'm going to say that a lot probably. There was like so much hype around this episode. They were like, we're getting back to the swashbuckling of the original series, and they kept using like the word swashbuckling everywhere in everything that was written about the episode. Yeah. It's well done. I think it's overrated. I think it just like stands out from a boring season.
This is Benji's Inner Light. It's good but overrated.
Yeah, it's good but overrated. Oh man, did I say that?
There's also some good Trip stuff. Trip in command, powerful character.
Listen, is this where we get into you wanting Trip in command?
No, or not Trip. Malcolm.
Oh, I thought we were okay. I thought we were going down a different.
Yes to your thing, but no. What I'm talking about when Malcolm was in command while they were down on the planet. And
now you want Malcolm telling you what to do?
Listen, at this point, I'm not being choosy. But Malcolm Reed, you know what? Malcolm could get it. Malcolm could get it, and they could all get it. They could all be in command.
Problematic gay alert.
Took me a second to get there.
Problematic gay alert.
But Malcolm in command of the Enterprise. It was a really interesting scene. You know, Travis expressing concern. The Andorian said we can't do that, and him snapping him back and saying, "I don't take orders from a voice on the comm unless it's the captain." Like, yeah, Malcolm, good for you.
Look up Malcolm's Vidal Sassoon commercials from when he was younger. He can get it then.
Well, thanks for giving me something to Google after this is over.
Yeah. Writing that down. Other thoughts on the Andorian incident?
Or the indecent.
Or the indecent.
Indecent.
T'Pol's great.
Yeah, T'Pol. I think it's a great T'Pol episode, which makes me happy.
You can see that she's developing a relationship, but she's conflicted. It's good. Yeah. The performance is good. Doesn't matter, Benji. Thumbs up.
Outvoted. America.
Fuck yeah.
Sorry, my vote is 1.89 yours. I don't know what the exchange rate is.
We're terrific.
For Canadian thumb.
I don't know what it is.
Oh God. Season 1, episode 8, Breaking the Ice. Trip discovers that T'Pol is transmitting secret messages to a Vulcan ship, which has been tailing Enterprise for weeks, and Captain Archer must rescue 2 crewmen from a crumbling comet. I liked the whole T'Pol sending secret messages and the Vulcans have been following him the whole time kind of story, though it doesn't make sense with all of the other episodes. Like, it would have been cooler if they had been tailing them the entire time, and that had been like a through line that was sort of written into the previous episodes, kind of a la Lower Decks. Mm-hmm. That was a squandered opportunity, but I liked the idea that she was like, I'm going to stay with these people because I believe in their mission. Also, they need help. Like that.
It would have been a payoff if there was more of that. You're right.
Yeah, it was kind of it was kind of cute that she's like, I'm going to go with them, but also they're kind of dumb sometimes. Like, it's
It would have been funny too if like there's this idea that she's gonna leave, like she's gonna leave the crew. She's gonna leave the crew. It would be funny if she tries to leave, but the Vulcan High Command's like, no, you have to stay on the ship. Because like instead of her being like, these are my friends and I want to stay with them, it was like, no, I want to get off this fucking stinky ship.
Yeah.
Get me off this fucking flea trap. And then they're like, no, sorry, you have to stay. Like that would be really funny.
Or the
She got
crew.
to Lind.
Spoiler alert for season 4. Like, but what if she eventually chose to? Well, she does choose to give up her commission. Spoiler alert. But what if she had actually been on a these people are stubborn, you need to go watch out for them mission this entire time?
Yeah.
Instead of like that would have been a cool twist. Sorry.
Because they do kind of talk about how she's there to like, though like in the pilot she's there to kind of like make sure they don't really fuck things up, because the Vulcans have stake in the fact that they don't want a war with Kronos, but like but she then like decides to stay, and I'm like, no, she should have gotten a sign. Like the Vulcans are like, no, you have to stay on this ship. It's like a concession for them launching it or staying out or something. And just the reason she hates them is because she wants to go do other things, but she's stuck on this ship with them. Is like, that's funny. Like that's like a interesting character dynamic, but like, yeah, this episode's fine. There's some good like set piecey moments, like the snowman and all that stuff is really good. But yeah, it's a little like I don't Archer's hostility towards the Vulcans is really wearing thin at this point of the season.
Even with that Vulcan captain being kind of a dick, like it was too much. Like it was just too much hostility from Archer. I feel like there were a lot of little good moments in this episode, but then there wasn't enough of a through line.
Hence why they threw in the shuttle on the comet. And that just gets resolved a little too quickly. It's fine.
Again, they go back to Vulcans were mean to my dad, so now I'm an asshole. Like it doesn't make sense. Like it's just stop. Like have the backstory be that the Vulcans were responsible for his father's death.
Yes.
Something.
Give me something more substantive.
Yeah. I also find it like having such a like impactful episode like the Andorian incident, followed by an episode that's a little like soft and they don't reference it. The reset button is really apparent. It's not like in Voyager where it's like, oh, some time has passed. This is like this reset button is happening and everyone's ignoring that there was a reset.
Yeah,
like, it's very strange because there should be more. They like,
and the Vulcan ship failing them makes some sense after the humans were responsible for their spy sanctuary being covered.
Yeah, I don't know.
I do want to call out this episode for being only Travis could look hot in a spacesuit. I'm just saying.
Problematic gay alert.
I reject the premise of your alert. There was nothing problematic about his hotness pouring through that suit through nothing but the little face visor.
That's a good note for something I've been meaning to adjust the problematic gay alert to a thirsty gay alert, because that's really what it is.
It's fine. I'll accept it as it is.
And we'll sell more stickers, I think. Just kidding. I don't care about sales. Although we do have a store.
We do have a store. Thumbs for breaking the ice. It's anonymous. Season
anonymous,
1.
You mean unanimous?
I'm saying it on purpose.
You got to learn how to tell jokes better.
Or you got to learn how to receive them better.
I'm with Will on this one, Boo. I love you. I love you dearly, but
Will's been doing a not listening bit for 45 minutes.
For about 2 years now. For about 2 years, I've been doing that bit.
Season 1, Episode 9, Civilization. Captain Archer and his crew disguise themselves as aliens while on an exploratory mission to an Earth-like planet where Archer enjoys the company of a female alien. I'm sorry.
Nice.
Noise.
Noise.
It's not inaccurate. I think it misses the mark with its premise. Like there was some interesting stuff that could happen here, like away team procedure, the universal translator, like I mean, real world, none of these missions make any sense. Like these aliens would see my mouth moving differently than the words that they're hearing in their own language. Like it does not compute. But this, of course, being a TV show,
It's a
still a television show. There are like there are just some things missing, and like to me, this episode was just boring.
You're not wrong.
This was like one of those episodes where you could have plucked it from this series and put it in any of them, and it would have worked. Like it feels very TNG. It feels very like late Riker. Riker goes on a away mission and falls in love with an alien on the planet, and things get complicated. Random alien ship shows up, and the Enterprise has to deal with it. It's like, okay, it's very cookie cutter in a way where it's like, again, it's because it's trying to utilize the premise of it's a prequel. So this is the first time they're doing it, but it's not adding the complication of that. Where like, oh, they went down there, and how do these people? We need to know their language. We need to know this and that, and it's just, it's so stupid. It's just a dumb episode, and it's like, okay, give them little ridges, and then they're good to go.
But they get to recycle like every single Star Trek premise that's ever happened, but do it for the first time, and we get to see them fumble their way through it.
Yeah, this is where the premise is really, really carrying the episode, and it's another good episode where T'Pol steals the show. Like she's the best thing of the episode again. Like Julian Blaylock, like just like kills it every time. Like this episode in particular, I found her to be the most compelling part of it. But it's a pretty average episode. Like it's a very average, like First Contact kind of episode. Like it could have been in any series, any of them.
It's awkward. Like it just doesn't. It just feels like this week on Star Trek blank.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like alien ship we can't defeat. Like who gives a fuck? Like okay,
Voyager fell into that trap the later seasons too.
Yeah. Oh, scary alien ship. Yeah, it's a little boop.
Thumbs.
That was neither anonymous nor unanimous. Season 1, episode 10, Fortunate Son. When Captain Archer comes to the aid of a human freight vessel under attack by pirates, he's surprised to discover that the crew is less than grateful. Could it be because they overwork their pecs and wear tight shirts? I don't know.
That first officer could get it.
Oh yeah,
so hot.
Listen.
He could torture this bussy any day.
Oh God, hit
I'm
the button,
so sorry,
Jesus
everybody.
Christ!
Problematic gay alert.
But just hit it again because I agree.
Problematic gay alert.
I mean, he's so hot.
There's nothing wrong with him at all.
This introduces something that I wish we got more of in Enterprise, is like the civilian aspect of this.
Yes.
Where we get it, like this is like the most interesting part of like Mayweather's characters, is he was Boomer grew up on a starship, a freighter, all that kind of thing.
Mhm.
And it introduces something where it's like you see in Star Trek that like outside of this series that like it's basically it's only Starfleet and then like pirates. Like there's not like anything in between, like civilians doing things or anything like that. It's like Starfleet, Federation, or nothing. And this having kind of a civilian component that's not like on the surface like a like a crime syndicate moment. It does feel like this was something that they could have leaned in more, that there's like this idea that there's Starfleet, but also there's civilian things happening too, which I don't think we see enough of in Star Trek, generally speaking. And I find that the idea of it more interesting than the actual episode. It's a little for me, but like I find the idea of this episode really compelling. Like, this happens so often with series where it's where like I love the idea, but the execution is just like, no, this is interesting. Like, please do that. Like the idea of the civilians, Earth civilians, like what they're doing with this Starfleet takeover, everything they're doing, all of this has to go through Starfleet now. It's like,
the resentment that he has with
Travis.
Mean? Really interesting stuff.
They're taking away our best people to go join the military. It's like that's an interesting story.
Right.
And what should have happened is that Travis and the first officer should have taken off their clothes and fought it.
That's true. That's true. That's true. They should have done a couple of docking procedures.
They should have had a naked fight like in Foundation.
Yeah. Again, Nausicaan's really cool. Like the Nausicaans are super cool in this too, where they made them like
great use of like the premise.
Great use of like Nausicaans being like, oh, they're pirates and like kind of formidable, and their ships are cool looking too. I was like, oh, great. Like there's good stuff happening. It's like this stuff is more interesting. I feel like you could mine this more for story. Like, oh, civilians, they're butting up against like Nausicaans and stuff, and like
there was also some interesting stuff with the captain once he recovered. Like, I'm gonna have to get a Warp 3 engine just to compete. Right. Like, their technology is getting better. The transporter and what that's going to do to their industry. There's really interesting stuff there that they only touch the surface.
Yeah, because they talk about like, I don't think we're like, they don't really address this. They're like, oh, we got rid of famine, these other things. They mention that in the pilot. Trip does, but like maybe capitalism still exists. Like we have people that are running freight. Like they have industries that are built on this. There's still money in this world.
Yeah,
like, it's so close to us. It wouldn't make sense we got rid of all of the money within like less than a century.
Replicators don't exist yet, so
exactly. Yeah. So it's an interesting. There's some nice world building here that I'm like, this is the kind of stuff that makes the series more interesting because you can add more texture to it, because you can dig a little more into this, how the universe and how we're fitting Starfleet and these new engines and all this other stuff is fitting into the rest of the world, the universe at large. But they just kind of drop it again for just reset lazy storytelling. It's just such a bummer because this is probably a really interesting idea that we don't see in Star Trek.
I think if it had been a little more serialized, I think they could have like integrated that story a lot better and had like a lot of through lines. But it's like Berman wanting to do episodic Star Trek, and so we get 2 episodes about this, even though they introduced it as supposedly a major concept in the first episode. But
stuff just gets dropped. There's not a lot of planning, especially when you have 26 episodes. You can't really structure. That's a monumental task to structure that. That's almost 3 seasons of a regular show now.
Yeah, that's right. I think Trevor's right. They get it right in season 4, where they have 2 episode arcs and 3 episode arcs, and I think even 1 4-episode arc.
Yeah,
mess. All right, let's see those thumbs for Fortunate Son.
Season 1, episode 11, Cold Front. Archer invites a group of stargazers aboard, not realizing that his Suliban nemesis, Silic, is among them. And the captain soon realizes that Silic has a pernicious plan to change the course of history.
Daniel sucks. Can we all agree on that? Like, I find the temporal Cold War stuff interesting. Different episodes execute it differently, wonky to decent. This episode I like this episode, but Daniels annoys the shit out of me. Him fanboying over Archer. It begins early, and every episode he does moving forward, it just drives me up a damn wall.
It's interesting, but it's a drop.
He looks like Baby Stewart.
And yes, I don't understand what's going on with. I don't often criticize people's hair because I have none, but the hair's weird.
Yeah.
He's too much of a dork, and he isn't mysterious enough. It just like it doesn't work. They should have cast a young David Cronenberg in the role. Why didn't anybody do that?
Yeah. It would be funny if he was like, it's someone who is very clearly a dork trying to play off as like mysterious and like otherworldly, where they should have just been like, you're kind of a dork. We should make Daniels a dork.
Yeah.
Like that's more interesting than being like, oh, I'm trying to be suave. It's like, Mama, no, you can't do that. Like she doesn't have the range. She doesn't have the range. Also, like we can't do that. Like you don't have
dorks
the range.
Dorks are the perfect pick. They're unassuming. Like nobody's gonna believe he's up to something. They're just like, whatever. He makes the captain's eggs in the morning. Like,
right? Yeah. Who cares? Yeah.
Lean into it.
Yeah. I like this episode a lot on the rewatch. I like the temporal Cold War stuff. I wish they leaned into it a little bit more, and how like this timeline's all sorts of fucked up. Like, I find it really interesting, but again, it's a dropped premise. But like, I did enjoy this episode a lot on the rewatch. God, he has the most punchable face of anyone on Star Trek. I just want to punch his face. Like there's something about it. I was like, Mom, I'm gonna. That face just yearns like for a fist
little,
in it. Just like
I'll hold him, you hit him, baby Stewart. Benji grab his wallet. Yeah, it's
anytime Daniel's on
knee him in the balls.
Like,
yep,
give him a wedgie.
Yeah. Although I like Joel's comment that Archer and Silic need to kiss. He's not wrong.
Well, I love
Silic.
He's such an interesting character from the jump, and I liked. This is the first episode. Like they didn't do it immediately. They gave us some breathing room, which they don't do with other aspects of things like we've talked about. But the Suliban coming back in this episode and subverting expectations by him needing to save the ship for some reason. I think Will said it really well. The different timelines and what's going on, and like it's a really smart choice for a prequel that I think Strange New Worlds does as well, like with changing when the thing that was supposed to happen in the 90s and now it's about to happen. Thank you. By like introducing some timey-wimey nonsense and like little differences are happening, it helps with the visual continuity and that kind of thing. It's a fun nod to the annoying super fans like us, quite frankly, but also just introduces some really interesting possibilities for storytelling that they don't always follow through on. But in this episode, we get some really fun subverted expectations with Silic being back on the Enterprise, this time to help them. But why?
Joel, I'm confused if you're referring to the Dominion War or an actual Dom War.
Well,
which I'm
interesting. This episode has come, like I've noticed this with many of the Enterprise episodes we've come through so far, that they have a serious issue with like epilogues, like wrapping things up. The episodes just kind of seem to just fizzle and end, which could be fatigue, but like it does seem like this episode in particular could have ended on a much stronger note, considering the trajectory of this episode. Like the kind of unraveling of what's going on, like maybe the realization that they're pawns in this temporal Cold War and they can't stop it. Like they're being messed with by like different sides and around, like that's kind of terrifying. They kind of are lacking free will at this point, where like there's this temporal Cold War happening, and everything they're doing is either going to be like you have to question everything you're doing, whether it's you're actually doing it as part of like free will or you're being manipulated or moved somewhere based on like information you're receiving from a temporal agent on your ship, because Daniels was fucking on the ship for God knows how long and he didn't know. So it's like, that's interesting. And it just kind of, they're just like, okay, cool, wraps up. Okay, it's gone by. And it's like, no, that's terrifying.
Where did they move his roommate before they locked his quarters?
I don't know.
And also, why did they need to lock the quarters? Like, all the technology was gone.
Also, why didn't we see him?
No, it wasn't, but yeah.
In 8 of the last 11 episodes, like he should have been like, oh, is this a main character? Like, what a great, I mean, clearly they didn't do that because they didn't have the idea for the episode until about a week and a half before they filmed it. But it would have been a great. This guy shows up in the first episode and delivers food to them when they're sitting in the
steward.
mess, and just continues on. But anyway,
More planning.
It is wild to me that there was once a world where they would be writing episodes while the season was already airing.
Yeah.
Like that is incredible.
Well, that
to think
happened
of
with
this day and
Picard,
age.
Well,
God.
they were shooting episodes before they had a finished script on Picard in most instances.
Yeah.
Nuts.
Yeah, well, they're writing episodes in a vacuum almost.
Mm.
Like that's
Also,
kind of different.
I don't remember with this
now.
one specifically, but there was also, I think this happened more with Enterprise than with the other shows. The cold open with Enterprise was so much shorter than the other series to like unintentional comedic effect.
Yeah.
Like barely anything would happen and it'd be like, and then it's been a long road. Like, what?
Someone zips up a fly. It's been yeah.
Yes.
Like,
Some of them were very short, like 30 seconds or less. It feels like it's wild.
Captain,
It's been a shower.
Should we see those thumbs? It's been a long road.
What are we talking about? Cold Front.
Cold Front.
What show am I on? I lose somehow. It's an up. Okay. I think you're all crazy. Anyway, season 1, episode 12, Silent Enemy. The crew hurries to make the ship's phase cannons operational while under attack by an unidentified vessel.
We've already seen this episode already in this show.
but I think this is the better one of it.
Yes.
I like this episode for some reason. The aliens are creepy. They're different.
Can I add to the Google description? Also pineapple. Okay, carry on.
Oh yeah, the pineapple stuff. Yeah,
My favorite.
I love this episode. I like that the aliens are mysterious. They don't know what they're doing. Like
Phasers don't do shit.
Phasers don't do shit on them. Like that's like kind of like a Reed episode. I think it's pretty good. Like even I don't think he's like the center point of this, but like they're fucking good. That alien design is good. Like it's good.
Like one of my favorites. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so good. Like the helmet, the eyes floating, they're actually truly alien, and the way they're like hovering over that guy, super cool. Yeah, like I love this is like one of the episodes that I would like rewatch. Like I love this episode.
I like seeing
I hate that they got phasers because I like that they had the little plasma bolt things. I did like that. But like as an episode, I think it's really cool. Like it's the first time they kind of execute the idea. You know, but
and it's like one of those wake up call episodes for them where they're like, oh, we are like way in over our heads.
Yeah, we weren't ready. We left early. I like seeing Starfleet business being done, like deploying the Echo 2 so that they can communicate with Earth. I love seeing the business, like we were talking about with civilian life, but like also seeing the business of how do we do the things that we do. And this episode does a really good job of highlighting that. And then I agree. I wish that they didn't get phasers so quickly, or that they didn't work immediately or that they were blue. I think that them looking like Voyager phasers was a tiny little thing.
Didn't they do a thing where they like switch? So where they switched around from like kill to stun?
Kind of, but it also their hand phasers only have 2 settings, but several times, because I've rewatched several of these episodes a lot this week, several times they go to change the setting and like, you only have 2 settings. What are you doing? Like, But with the phase cannons, I love the way that they look and like the mechanical nature of them, seeing them pop out, and that they only have 3 of them. That goes by the wayside when the story calls for it in later episodes. But
Oh yeah, they have like 6 at one point.
yes,
There's so many of them. Then we get to Zindi, they had like 38 of them. The ship was bristling with them.
yeah,
Yeah.
I do
Yeah,
like the
interesting.
call out in the comments that like, really, Reed's secret is pineapple. Like I brought it up as a little bit of a joke, but like it could have been way more interesting.
and also this.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
Yeah.
also,
you should have told Archer she's not an administrative assistant.
yeah,
Mhm.
It could have they could have done it like it was her ideas. Like, hey, let me like she took it on herself because she wanted her friend to have whatever. But like the captain ordering his communications officer to stoop around for a birthday surprise was weird.
like I have an actual job, and it's not this.
Right.
What a great opportunity to introduce a captain's yeoman,
Yeah,
Mhm.
because captains
Yeah.
did have administrative assistants, and this might have been a great
Yeah.
job for that person.
make it Crewman Cutler, or
You should have
like
been
if you wanted more happening with her anyway.
I was going to say who should have been a man.
Oh, also that make
Yeah,
it
he had, like, a
Crewman Tree
He
Face.
had a waiter. He had that waiter that was always serving them in the mess,
Oh,
in the
right.
captain's mess.
Yeah. In his personal mess, not even in the mess hall. So like when the captain's not.
What if Crewman Daniels this whole time was the captain's yeoman? Sorry. Anyway,
Should we look at those thumbs for Silent Enemy?
all right, y'all. Season 1, episode 13, the last of season 1A. Dear Doctor, the crew encounters an alien race in desperate need of medical and scientific assistance, but Dr. Phlox refuses to treat them because of his medical beliefs. What a fucked up description. If
That's-
only for
Yeah.
the use of
It's
the
a little
word belief.
more nuanced than that description.
Because of
Yes.
his beliefs, he has ethical practices that he employs.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah,
Anyway.
a little different. Yeah.
This is the first like controversial episode of the show,
Yes.
right?
and a
Yeah,
controversial
yeah.
ass description. So fuck off
Yeah.
Google for this one.
Yeah, truly.
I also like I don't know if I'm dumb or if I'm unknowingly pro eugenics or something, but like I don't understand where the controversy comes from in this episode. Like I mean I know where it comes from, but I don't find it all that controversial. Like choosing not to like maybe it's because I'm biased from past Star Trek. I'm like this is the way they do things.
Yeah,
And we've talked about how the Prime Directive is bullshit, which they don't have yet. But like, yeah, they don't change evolution on this planet. All right.
but we've also talked about how in the face of people dying, maybe you do change the course of evolution.
Yeah.
But that would require the subjugation of another people. So I think it is an interesting ethical circle that
Yeah.
Yeah, the
where
treatment
does
of
the line
main-
with your where does the line with like your ethics and like what like the kind of the gray area between like ethics and like fair like
Star
where-
Trek 2,
where, like
the Wrath of Stan.
the Wrath of Stan like that the I had a thought and now it's gone. This was like the one that where like your ethics where it ends, like the ethics of something versus doing what's right.
Mhm.
Like where it ends, where that line is, like that kind of gray area in between, and like with the doctor going, I'm not going to treat them because this is hindering the development of their. This is this is changing the course of their species. Like, is an interesting point where everyone's going, you should help them, and he's just like, no.
Well,
like-
no, remember this was the other thing that I thought was interesting is he didn't refuse. He left it up to the captain. He just
Right.
advocate. He's like, I found it. Please don't give it to them.
Yeah,
Which
it is kind of like, I'll do it like when your boss wants you to do something and you're like, you're gonna have to tell me to do it. You're not doing me as a favor. Like, you have to order me. Like, making them, like, it's like, if you want me to do this, you have to make me do it, which is that's like an interesting point of this. But
Which
I
always felt-
see the controversy of it. I do think it's a little thin based on the premise of Star Trek as a whole.
I see the debate. I just don't see the like how like this isn't Tuvix to me. Although to me Tuvix was a much easier decision.
I felt like it put Phlox in a bad light. It actually created the I forget his name, but after Booth assassinated Lincoln, the physician who actually treated Booth for the broken leg was charged with treason. And it's like, no, you're a physician. You fucking set the leg.
Yeah.
People are dying. You stop them from dying. Like the
and then the justice
social, ethical, and moral implications you let play out. Like and it's not maybe then the conversation about interference comes into play. But when people are dying, you save them. As a physician, would have been a more interesting position for him to take versus I've found a cure, but I'm considering withholding it because of it. I feel like it would have been a more Star Trek conversation had the captain been in the position of non-interference versus the physician who is already taken an oath to save lives, especially when that physician is not a Starfleet officer.
Yeah, and that was definitely an interesting, by having Phlox not in Starfleet, or even if he was in Starfleet, him being Denobulan, there's an interesting layer to this Doctor versus others we've seen. So I kind of see the way that they went about it, but I agree, flipping it could have been something else. I also think I can't think of another example where the same character is the A and B story. Really interesting, like seeing him with Crewman Cutler. Very interesting story. Learning about the polyamory or polyglotness. I don't know what the polycule actual term would be for Denobulans.
Everybody fucking.
Yeah, but I love that Crewman Cutler isn't weird about it, because it, like given the way that they've done other shit, and maybe it's because she's, I don't know, like the way that they've handled other things in this show, it would have been really easy for them to have written her as being really off-put by it, and like, why would you even talk to me if you're married? And I'm really glad they didn't go that route. And she's just like, right now I just want a friend. Let's see where it goes. Good for her. I also found it really funny that his pen pal, the letter we get from him was like 3 sentences. Y'all be having a lot of babies. And then the entire episode is Phlox writing the longest reply letter. It's so funny to me. Like, just that juxtaposition is, and like, of course, it's great narration for the episode. It is just so funny. Oh, my pen pal wrote me a letter. Oh, a lot of babies having a week. Hope you're doing well.
Have that dynamic. We always have the dynamic where you're either the person who writes the long response and then gets the 2-word ha ha ha, so funny, or you're the person that you always have that dynamic is very relatable.
I invite you now to the salon.
How dare you? He's dragging me, everybody. Will is dragging me specifically.
Girl, I will show you the text thread right now. No,
left her on red.
I had two options. He said yes. Not helpful.
Yeah.
Not you. It's a joke. Benji, I kept interrupting you. Sorry.
Either decision is like, I mean, obviously this is like has to take place encapsulated in an episode, but it's like either episode is like a profoundly massive decision for one person to make. Like it's and they have time on theirs. I mean, I guess people are dying, but like if they're talking about like the evolution of the species or the decline of the species, they do have time to make that decision. Like it should not be up to, one dude on a spaceship to make that decision. So I don't know, like saving them or not, both of those decisions have massive implications, and like this one rando is supposed to make that choice. I don't know.
Right.
Also, if your non-interference clause doesn't exist yet, the policy manual that is the prime directive, could you not find another place for the less developed folks to go so they can develop freely without being subjugated? Like it just feels like
or kick the more developed people out.
Yeah.
Well,
displace the rich developed people.
Yeah, or either or.
Some sort of
It's got to be a moon
directive. Like,
yeah,
really
that was a little
heavy-handed with that delivery.
That was a little meh.
Yeah, I
Are we
mean,
ready
they could
for
say
the-
like, we'll give you the cure, but you've got to let the bank be mank.
Ooh, let's negotiate the cure. I like it.
Yeah.
So fucking Canadian, like coming up with a brilliant answer to a problem that we can't solve.
Should we see the thumbs for Dear Doctor?
All right.
Well, friends, it's time for a brief hiatus. We are going to get the scorecard in a moment, but then we will pause our thumb war. We'll take a brief ceasefire until next week, where we'll kick things up again for the remainder of season 1. We will be back next week at 6:30 p.m. to finish this first season. Until then, please do like and subscribe. Check us out on Patreon. Check us out in all of the podcast places. We definitely appreciate our Patreon supporters. We've got some fun episodes up there as bonus content. We'll be doing more for this month, and we are going to be doing a lot of fun stuff coming up. So be sure to like and subscribe. We'll get there. Trevor, give us the tallies.
For season 1A or part 1 or whatever the fuck we're calling it, there were 6 thumbs ups, there were 4 thumbs sideways, and there were 3 thumbs downs. I'll give you a season 1 total next week at the conclusion. But so far, fairly positive results for season 1. There were 4 problematic gay alerts. There was 1 canon alert. Bonus points. I gave 1,000 bonus points to Will for not listening during the pre-show. I gave him another 100 bonus points for not listening during the actual show. 5,000 bonus points to Benji for unexpectedly enjoying Unexpected. 25 bonus points to Walter for being way cuter than Porthos. One bonus point, count them, 1 bonus point to Stan for landing a segue and making it a musical one at that. 2,000 bonus points for Joanne in the comments for social justice warrioring for Porthos. And last but not least, 500 bonus points in the comments with Joel for Shranbuckling.
It's been a long road. All right, y'all. Like and subscribe. We'll see y'all next week. Until then, please do live long and prosper.
All hands abandon ship. Proceed to the nearest evacuation zone immediately.